The slap cracked through the terminal like a gunshot. One moment, I was just Rose Morrison, checking the boarding time on my phone. The next, my sister Lisa's hand exploded against my cheek. The sound, a sickening, sharp smack, cut through the airport din and pulled a vacuum of silence behind it. 200 heads swiveled. Phones lifted, not to check schedules, but to record. The shock was a physical freeze. Before the sting even registered, before I could draw a shocked breath, I saw them coming, my parents, weaving through the crowd. A stupid, hopeful part of me thought, help. But their faces were etched with familiar urgency, a panicked, irritated scowl directed at me. They didn't look at my reddening face. They didn't see the tears of pure shock springing to my eyes. My father's first words were a low, furious growl. "What did you do to her now, Rose?" They had no idea I'd paid for every single part of this Hawaii trip. They didn't know that in 5 minutes, a decision made in that ringing silence would leave every gawking passenger stunned and my family's world in pieces. For as long as anyone can remember, I've been the responsible one. The stable daughter. The calm sister. The woman who doesn't argue, complain, or make waves. It sounds like a compliment, but it's not. It's a cage. A role assigned to you that you're never allowed to leave. In our Los Angeles home, Lisa was always the dazzling spark. Loud, emotional, magnificently dramatic, everything my parents found charming and alive. I was the quiet shadow, the fixer. Lisa cried, I comforted. Lisa broke, I repaired. My parents needed something. Their eyes skipped right over her and landed on me. I told myself this was love. This was family. By 28, the cost of that reliability had a price tag. I work in marketing analytics, a job of numbers and spreadsheets that pays well. So well that funding a family vacation to Hawaii didn't seem like a burden, it felt like my job. A gift for my parents, who deserved a break. A generous gesture for Lisa, who was perpetually stressed from her latest career pivot and needed to recharge for her inspiring Instagram quotes. 5 weeks ago, over dinner, Lisa stood with a champagne flute, beaming. "I'm taking us all to Hawaii," she declared. My mother's hands flew to her face. My father puffed his chest, bragging about her generosity. Lisa looked right at me, winked, and silently mouthed, "Thank you." Our secret. I just smiled and nodded, as always. So I did what I do. I planned. I paid. Premium seats for Dad's bad back. Separate rooms for Lisa's space. I swallowed the small, hard stone of resentment each time they praised her for my work, each time they brushed off my efforts as effortless, each time Lisa called me uptight for managing the logistics she gladly benefited from. I still hoped. Standing there at LAX with my coffee, boarding pass glowing on my screen, I hoped the ocean air would soften us. That this trip would be different. I was so terribly, catastrophically wrong. The slap's echo was swallowed by a terrifying quiet inside me. The part of my brain that always scrambled to explain Lisa, to justify her, to find the reason, it finally went still. The throbbing in my cheek was a dull pulse, but the real pain was the sight of my parents charging toward us, their faces masks of frantic blame aimed directly at me. "What did you do to her, Rose?" My father's voice was a weapon, sharp and immediate. He didn't look at the mark on my face. He never did. I opened my mouth, a weak defense forming, but Lisa was a master of cue. On a dime, she melted into our mother's shoulder. A perfect, trembling sob racked her frame. "She's been sabotaging this whole trip," she cried, her voice a masterpiece of wounded fragility. "I can't do it anymore. She hates to see me happy." The lie. So fluent, so effortless. That didn't shock me. The speed with which my parents absorbed it, metabolized it, and turned it into truth, that was the fresh blow. Mom's hand went instantly to Lisa's hair, a soothing, automatic gesture. Her eyes, when they lifted to me, were hard with accusation. "Can't you give her this one thing? Just let her enjoy it." The script. I knew every line by heart. A lifetime of performances flashed before me, projected onto the curious, recording faces of strangers. Each memory was a brick, building the wall I was now trapped behind. Her high school graduation party. She wanted the celebration without the effort or the grades. $2,000 of my savings became a tent, a cake, lights. I stood at the grill in the backyard, smoke in my eyes, listening to her toast our parents' unwavering support. The applause was a physical ache. Mom's happy tears, Dad's proud hug, they were for her performance, funded by my silence. The downtown apartment. Her credit was a mess, but she had to live in that building. My signature on the cosign line was the only key that fit. I watched her Instagram video tour, her voice bright as she twirled her new keys. Self-made, the caption read. My perfect, boring credit score was the ghost in every frame. The 4-month engagement. The midnight call, the tears over a ring she deserved. $5,000 transferred, no questions asked. The social media post, a diamond glittering next to an open Bible, a hashtag about blessings. When the blessing ended, the ring stayed on her finger. The money was never mentioned again, lost in the drama of her heartbreak. And the gifts. Every Christmas, every birthday, the presents from both of us were chosen, bought, and wrapped by me. Lisa has such an eye for gifts, Mom would sigh, hugging a sweater I'd selected. I'd just nod, the secret a sour taste in my mouth. But the memory that burned hottest, the one that made the terminal lights seem too bright, was from 5 weeks ago. Lisa, standing at the head of the table, champagne flute aloft, claiming my trip as her grand, generous surprise. My parents' radiant faces. And Lisa's glance at me, that quick, secret smirk as she mouthed, "Thank you." Not gratitude. A reminder. A testament to a system that worked perfectly for everyone but me. Now, here in this public arena, the system was whirring back to life. Lisa, the wounded princess. My parents, her loyal knights. And me, cast once again as the jealous, spiteful villain. The role I was born into. Apologize. My father inserted himself between Lisa and me, a weary referee in a game whose rules only I had to follow. His voice held the flat expectation of an inevitable outcome. Just apologize. The heat on my cheek pulsed in time with my heartbeat. I swallowed the automatic words, the ones that always came. I'm sorry. It's my fault. Let's just move on. I didn't do anything, I whispered. The statement felt frail, foreign on my tongue. Rose. His voice descended into that specific, gravelly register of disappointment reserved solely for me. A tone that had shaped my bones since childhood. You drove your sister to tears. Fix this. My eyes moved to Lisa, still nestled against our mother. Her mascara was artfully smudged, a portrait of distress. She peeked at me from behind Mom's shoulder, and in that sliver of a glance, there was no remorse. Only a cool, testing challenge. Something fundamental broke loose inside me. It wasn't the hot rush of anger. It was colder, quieter, and far more final. A deep, settling realization. In 28 years, no amount of trips paid for, secrets kept, fires extinguished, or dignity swallowed had ever tipped the scales an inch. My currency was worthless here. My silence wasn't peace, it was permission. And in that crystal-clear moment, surrounded by the gawking jury of strangers, I knew, if I apologized now, I would be signing the deed to myself. I would be lost forever in the role of the family villain, the scapegoat, the manageable disappointment. The physical sting of the slap was nothing. The blur in my eyes came from the devastating understanding that followed it. Nothing has changed. Nothing will ever change. Suddenly, the terminal was an assault. The screech of suitcase wheels, the gurgle of a coffee machine, the distorted echo of a gate announcement, it all swelled into a deafening roar. I could feel the weight of every hidden camera phone. See the TSA agent's hesitant gaze. I was an exhibit in a zoo of my own making. I need a minute, I managed, the words brittle. My father waved a dismissive hand, his attention already returning to his sobbing favorite. Fine. Don't wander off. Boarding starts soon. Lisa leaned into the performance. Just make her go away. She wept into Mom's collar, the very picture of terror. I was the threat. I was the danger she needed protection from. I turned and walked. Not a storming exit, but the careful, unsteady steps of someone navigating a shipwreck. My hands trembled. I pressed one to my flaming cheek. The heat was all humiliation, a brand of public shame. I found an alcove near humming vending machines, a pocket of relative quiet. The cold tile of the wall seeped through my shirt as I leaned against it and shut my eyes. In the dark, the mental fog began to shred. Lisa's triumphant smirk at the dinner table flashed behind my eyelids. My mother's tearful pride. My father's chest swelling as he boasted of Lisa's fake generosity. A decade of me silently holding the seams of our family together while being treated as part of the furniture. And then, the anchor of truth, solid and undeniable. I paid for it. Every single part. The flights, the suites, the rental car, the tours. The champagne Lisa used to toast herself. Not a single credit card swipe, not one online confirmation, bore anyone's name but mine. The realization didn't feel like anger. It felt like a key clicking in a long-locked door. I opened my eyes. The tremor in my hands vanished, replaced by a steady, cool certainty. My phone was in my hand, the screen glowing. I opened my email, and there it was, the digital paper trail of my own exploitation. Flight confirmations, hotel receipts, car rental agreements, tour bookings. A column of transactions, every line item tied to my name, my credit card, my account. The thought that followed wasn't a surge of emotion. It was a structural calculation, clean and precise. This wasn't about revenge. It was a correction. The boundary line I had never been allowed to draw, etched not in anger, but in the simple, unassailable truth of financial fact. I opened the airline app. Our booking code autofilled. For seats. For names. One pair, R. Morrison. My heart was still a drum in my chest, but the rhythm had transformed. The frantic beat of panic was gone, smoothed into the steady, powerful thrum of control. This was my domain. Spreadsheets, logistics, payments. I was good at this. I moved deeper into the vending machine alcove, a shadow against the tile. I tapped the customer service number and pressed the phone to my ear. How can I help you today? The agent's voice was professionally serene. I drew a breath and my voice matched hers. Calm. Clear. I need to make a change to my booking. There was no shake, no heat. It was a statement of policy. A choice, finally made, I would no longer fund my own invisibility. While she pulled up the reservation, I looked across the concourse. My family was a vignette of restored harmony. They sat clustered together, my father saying something that made my mother smile. Lisa, already bored with the victim role, was absorbed in her phone, likely filtering a selfie. The crisis, from their perspective, was over. The troublesome daughter had been sent to cool off and would return, suitably chastened, to play her part. They had no idea. The woman walking back would not be the Rose they knew. She would be a stranger who had finally audited the books and found them bankrupt. Hold music, a soft acoustic guitar melody, filled my ear. I leaned into the cold wall. The silence around me wasn't empty. It was full of a new and potent quiet. For the first time in my life, in the eye of a family hurricane, I was not just composed. I was calm. The chaos belonged to them. The control belonged to me. The agent's voice returned. Okay, I've opened your booking. For passengers to Honolulu. How can I help? I didn't hesitate. I want to cancel 3 tickets. A brief, digital silence. 3 tickets. Yes. Please leave only the ticket under the name Rose Morrison. A longer pause now, the click of a keyboard in the background. Understood. There will be cancellation fees applied, but the remaining credit will be returned to your original form of payment. Perfect, I said, the word tasting like freedom. Please proceed. I heard the decisive taps on her keyboard. In an office somewhere, a status changed. In a database, 3 names were invalidated. And in a bustling Los Angeles terminal, with a few mundane clicks, the entire, stifling economy of my family, where my capital was endlessly drained to fund their fiction, collapsed. The balance of power, unchallenged for 28 years, finally and irrevocably shifted. The email notification appeared. Your itinerary has been updated. I stared at the screen. 3 names, Lisa, Nathan, Janet Morrison, were now ghosted out, marked cancelled. Just like that. 3 people who had built their comfort on the foundation of my silent compliance. The anger was gone, burned away to a clean, cold ash. I wasn't furious. I was finished. Next, the hotel app. 2 adjoining ocean view suites. 4 guests. My card on file. I tapped the contact number. Aloha, how can I help you today, Miss Morrison? The woman's voice was like warm honey, a genuine hint of the islands. I need to modify my reservation. Please change it to 1 room. For 1 guest. Just me. Certainly, all updated for you. The difference will be refunded. Have a wonderful stay. Her well-wishing felt like a blessing on a new beginning. Then the car rental. Gone was the hulking SUV for the family of 4 my father demanded. In its place, a small, efficient convertible for 1. A car with no back seat for arguments, no extra space for baggage. With each call, a weight lifted. Each confirmation of a refund wasn't just money returning to my account, it was a fragment of my identity, my agency, being restored. The phantom sting on my cheek faded. I was no longer the slapped girl in the terminal. I was Rose Morrison, architect of her own life. The title felt earned for the first time. Phone secured in my bag, I began the walk back to gate 76. The airport's chaos no longer felt like a personal assault. The lights were just lights. The noise was just noise. The world had righted itself on its axis. My family was a portrait of resumed normality. Lisa was chuckling at a TikTok, her crisis forgotten. Mom was digging for gum in her purse. Dad was frowning at his tablet. The scene was so peaceful, so utterly self-assured, it would make you doubt the violence of 10 minutes prior had ever happened. I stepped directly into their sightline. I'm heading to my gate, I said, my voice level. Mom blinked up, baffled. What? This is your gate. Not anymore. Lisa's head snapped up. Her eyes, sharp and annoyed, narrowed. What are you talking about? I held her gaze. You're not flying to Hawaii. She let out a derisive puff of air. God, Rose. What now? Stop being so dramatic. Slowly, I raised my phone. I turned the screen to face them, displaying the airline's confirmation page with its 3 stark cancellations. I canceled your tickets. All 3. The effect was instantaneous and total. Sound vanished. Movement ceased. It was as if all the oxygen in the immediate vicinity was suddenly consumed, leaving behind a perfect, paralyzed vacuum. Their peaceful world imploded in the silence. My father surged to his feet, his chair screeching back. What have you done? Lisa lunged, snatching my phone from my hand. She stared at the screen, her eyes darting over the cancellation details as if they were hieroglyphics. No, you didn't. You can't do this. I booked this trip. You didn't, I said, my voice low and even. Every single part of it belongs to me. My mother rose, unsteady. Rose, this isn't funny. Her voice wavered between plea and command. It's not a joke, I replied. Call the airline. See for yourselves. My father was already dialing, his fingers punching the numbers with furious precision. He put the call on speaker, his voice booming with forced authority as he recited the booking code. Lisa hovered, a frantic whisper escaping her lips. She's lying. Check again. She's lying. The agent's polite, digital voice filled the space between us. I show 1 active passenger on this reservation. Rose Morrison. The other 3 tickets have been canceled. The color drained from Lisa's face, leaving her perfectly applied makeup stark and garish. My father lowered the phone slowly, the device suddenly heavy in his hand. He looked at me, not with understanding, but with sheer, bewildered betrayal. How could you do this? How could you? I asked, the calmness in my own voice a stark contrast. How many times did you watch The Lie Land and then turn to me for the apology? How many times did you praise a generosity that came from my bank account? How many times did you shush me for the sake of a peace that only ever cost me? We didn't. We never meant. My mother took a stumbling step forward, her hand outstretched. You did, I stated, the truth laying bare. You saw her hit me, and your first question was what I did. You chose your side before the sound of the slap had faded. You always do. Lisa's bravado shattered. Rose, please, she gasped, the tears now real but far too late. I didn't mean it. I was upset. I wasn't thinking. You're 26 years old, I said, gently extracting my wrist from her grasp. When do you plan to start? There was no venom, only a weary, final clarity. It was the question she had spent a lifetime avoiding. I scrolled through my phone, holding it up, the hotel modification, the car rental downgrade, the canceled excursions. One by one, the components of their vacation vanished from the digital ledger. My father's neck flushed a deep, mottled red. You think this is strong? This is just spiteful. No, I corrected. This is freedom. My mother's fingers clutched at my sleeve. Real tears now tracked through her powder. We can fix this. Don't do this. We can't afford to buy new tickets now. I know you can't, I said, meeting her desperate gaze. I've always known. That's why I paid. Overhead, the loudspeaker crackled to life. Now boarding Group A for Flight 237, nonstop service to Honolulu. My father moved, a solid wall of indignation blocking my path to the jet bridge. You walk through that gate, he hissed, the words a low, final ultimatum, and don't you ever come back. I looked up at him, truly seeing the man behind the lifelong disappointment. And for the first time, I felt no fear, no urge to fold. The anchor of his approval had finally lost its weight. I'm not the one who left, I said, my voice barely above a whisper yet carrying in the tense quiet. You all left me behind a long time ago. I sidestepped him. No hand reached out to pull me back. No voice called my name. I walked toward the gate agent, who scanned my solitary boarding pass with a knowing, sympathetic nod, and I did not look back. The gate agent scanned my boarding pass. Her eyes, professional yet kind, flicked to my face. Rough day, she murmured, a quiet solidarity between strangers. I felt the ghost of a smile touch my lips. It's getting better. Walking down the jet bridge, each step was a release. The pressurized air hummed around me, carrying away the last clinging fragments of the old weight. In my premium window seat, the sun streamed through the portal, painting warm stripes across my hands. I didn't just have legroom, I had room to breathe. As the plane pushed back and began its taxi, I let myself look. There, behind the giant pane of terminal glass, was the final tableau of my former life. Lisa marched in frantic, tight circles, a phone clamped to her ear. My mother was a portrait of collapse, her face hidden in her hands, shoulders shaking. My father, red-faced, was jabbing a finger at a patient but immovable airline employee, trying to argue a reality that no longer existed. They were unmoored. Actors on a stage where the script had just been burned. What unfolded in the days that followed would have shocked the old me. Hawaii wasn't just a destination, it was an awakening. From the moment I stepped onto my private balcony, the vast, breathing Pacific stretched before me, a blue so profound it made my old problems seem microscopic. The wind swept in, cool and salt-tinged, and touched the skin where Lisa's hand had landed. For the first time in years, there was no pain there. Only clean air. I lived. Truly lived. I snorkeled in silent, fish-dappled coves. I hiked trails where the only sound was my own breath and the distant crash of waves. I ate meals alone, savoring each bite without drafting an internal apology for my presence. My phone, when I briefly turned it on, buzzed like an angry hornet's nest, a cacophony of pleas, rage, and bewildered guilt. I silenced it. The noise belonged to them now, not to me. On the flight home, anchored in a new kind of calm, I opened the letter that had arrived at my apartment. My parents' words confessed to a lifetime of favoritism, willful blindness, and transactional love. They apologized, and for the first time, it sounded honest. Not a tool to reset the old system, but a genuine, if belated, acknowledgement. I read it, carefully folded the paper, and placed it in a drawer. I wasn't ready to answer. The power to decide when or if I ever would was now entirely my own. I finally understood. Peace is not the absence of conflict. It is the presence of yourself. It arrives not when you silence your own needs, but when you finally choose to honor them. My family might evolve, or they might harden into their old roles. But their choices are no longer my cargo. Drawing a boundary isn't an act of war, It is the fundamental art of self-preservation. If this story echoes in your bones, you are not alone. You're seen. Share your thoughts below and tell us where you're joining from.